Hello fellow wrestlers, trainees, welcome to the Theory of Wrestling. Here's a question I want you to answer honestly. Can you wrestle on the fly? Basically what I'm asking you is, can you effectively have a good, entertaining match that a live audience is really going to enjoy if something goes wrong? So if like a rope snaps, or maybe like someone turns up really last minute late, don't have time to plan a full match, or maybe you'll find like the audience doesn't get on with the face for whatever reason, they're just booing them, so you have to change the whole match because it was all built around the face being the good guy. There's loads of examples where you could, and you probably will find yourself in a spot at some point or another where you have to start working on the fly, or essentially wrestle without having anything planned. Now if you have trouble working on the fly, then this is the video for you. I'm Ollie Burns and I perform on wrestling shows as Priscilla, Queen of the Ring. And today I'm going to be teaching you how to wrestle on the fly. Now to be clear, working on the fly is basically being able to wrestle without any kind of structure, without any sort of a plan, without any kind of a finish in the back of your mind. Working on the fly is not about coming up with fancy spots whilst you're out there in front of an audience. It's not about learning ways to talk through complicated endings to a match whilst nobody notices what you're doing. That is not working on the fly at all. If you're trying to come up with sequences and inventive moves whilst you're out there, what you're going to do is create lots of opportunities for injuries, and I can guarantee you, you won't look 100% confident like you're a paid performer who is being paid to entertain those paying audience members that day. Remember, first and foremost, you are a performer, so it's always important to look confident and be able to put on a convincing performance. Working on the fly is all about being able to do that when things go wrong and when you don't have something planned, and I guarantee you, at a certain point, or probably several during your wrestling career, you're going to come up with this problem and you're going to be glad that you learned this skill. Now, in my years of wrestling, I've had quite a few opportunities to work on the fly with quite a few different people, and it's given me essentially some pretty simple rules that I always stick to, which I find work really well. One thing you'll be quite surprised about is that actually working on the fly is very easy to do once you get the hang of it, and I always keep one word in mind whenever it comes to working on the fly with people, and that word is KISS, or keep it simple, stupid. Now when you're keeping it simple, you'll find that you'll tend to do the obvious thing. People get intimidated at the thought of working on the fly because they panic about what the opponent's going to do. They think, oh, I don't know what they're going to do, therefore it's a bit unknown, and you get a bit scared and worried, and because of that you tend to clamp down and try to overcomplicate it, try to control the situation and try to call spots to each other. Here's the thing, I know for a fact that if you're watching this video, then you are obsessed with wrestling. Every single wrestler loves wrestling, and it certainly at some point in their lives has watched a whole lot of wrestling matches. So while we're keeping it simple, remember that the person you're working has also watched a whole bunch of wrestling matches as well, and the pair of you have seen so much of the same content over the years. With that in mind, when you're keeping it simple, you tend to do the obvious thing. And when you're doing the obvious thing, then your opponent begins to do the obvious thing as well. Now, because you've both watched a whole lot of wrestling, you both know how wrestling matches work. And essentially, if you and your opponent go into the match from the same perspective, saying, right, the other person knows how wrestling matches work, I know how wrestling matches work, let's go out there, be a bit cheesy, be a bit obvious, and see what we come up with, you'll pretty much find it's going to go well every single time. So if I'm working on the fly, ideally I like to be a heel just because I know then I can lead it a little better. But as I've seen a lot of wrestling matches, I know that at the start of every wrestling match, we're going to see a face shine. We're going to see the face get some kind of house of fire, get some kind of nice moment where everyone says, yeah, that's the good guy, I like him. And of course, because I have watched wrestling before, I also know that the heel is going to make people dislike them. So the whole idea of it is that the heel comes out, they're unlikable, the face does them over, everyone says, great, he's the hero, fantastic. Great start to almost every single wrestling match. Now I'm going in there and I'm going to keep it simple and I'm going to do the obvious. So as a heel, for example, I'm going to start the match by getting up on the corner. What do you think of me? I get the boo. If I'm in the face's shoes, well, the obvious thing if the heel is getting booed is to do the same thing and go up your own corner and get a cheer. It's really easy to mirror each other. You get the boo, yeah, perfect, a lovely start. Maybe we move to a little bit of tech, so we do a lock up, a little bit of tech. Now as a heel, what I'm going to do is then give the face some cues to kind of give them an idea that it's their turn to do something to me. So I might put them into a wrist lock, show off, Yes, check me out, darlings, aren't I fantastic? Lock it on, really showing off. But I want to keep it obvious, I want to keep it simple for my opponents so they can follow the match and we can get the best reaction. So what I do is once I've got that response from the audience and they're booing me, I'm then just going to hold it. And why? Because if I'm the face and I'm just held in a wrist lock for the longest time, I know that the heel at some point wants me to reverse it, especially if the heel's just got a big, check me out, boo. The natural thing is to grab the wrist, flip him over, get a big pop. Yeah, made him do a flip bump. Fantastic stuff. Everyone's popping, everyone's jiving. We love that stuff. Easy energy. But what's happened there is we've kept it simple. We've gone for the obvious. There hasn't been anybody calling any kind of roll, flip up, flip over. That's for the guys in the main event who have already planned that and they're doing all the big spots. Right now, we're learning how to work on the fly, and it's important that we play our part on the card as well. So, we're going to keep it simple, we're going to do the obvious, and we're going to let the match feed itself. So while we're keeping it simple, and while we're doing the obvious, we also want to make sure that we always take the other person's lead. What I mean by that is while we keep it simple and while we're always doing the obvious, it makes sense to let the match lead itself and essentially play my part. But if my opponent gives me an obvious opening, it makes sense for me to take it and therefore take their lead. Two good reasons for this. Reason number one is that if I'm not taking their lead, then they're going to start to distrust me. If they want to do a particular spot and they're getting me for a suplex and want me to suplex them back, and I'm not doing it, they might start to get frustrated, then they have to come up with something different, then it's a case of, well, what have you got planned, son? It becomes a bit of an argument and it becomes quite disjointed, whereas if they just tease a suplex and then I give them a shot to the gut and suplex them back, they're then going, right, brilliant, okay, she knows what she's doing, let's move on to the next spot. Reason number two is that while we keep it simple and while we're doing the obvious thing, that sets the audience up ready for a certain response. And if you're beginning to dive away from what that person's leading into, it makes it difficult for the audience to follow as well. So we keep it simple, we always do the obvious, and whilst we're doing the obvious, we take the other person's lead. So we've just had the face shine, audience is going crazy. Now, as a heel, I want to essentially make a nice obvious cut off, and I want to make it obvious to the face I'm about to cut him off. I don't want to actually attack him because that could potentially hurt him, and I don't want to be doing that. So, as a heel, after having taken the face shine, I may roll out of the ring because I know that's a real clear way of telling the audience that I'm cheating because I'm not in the ring, and I know that it's going to get people annoyed. It's going to get referee counting, people don't like having their time wasted, so they start booing me more. Now, at that point, if I rolled out of the ring, I'm essentially taking the lead because I've created a separation right there, which means the face doesn't know what's going on in my head. But we're going to keep it simple and we're going to do the obvious, and the face is going to trust me as a professional. So rather than chasing me out going, oh, what are we doing, he's going to stay in the ring because he's seen this happen a million times before. He's seen the heel go outside the ring, he's seen the face say, get in the ring, he's seen the referee count, he's seen the audience react, so he knows it's going to work. So you take your time, you allow that to happen, you keep it simple, you do the obvious, you take the other person's lead and let them show you what they've come up with. As a heel, I'm going to do a cheat. It's simple. It's obvious, so I get back up on the apron, I say, I'm not getting in the ring unless that face is going to help me get in the ring. It's nice and loud, it's lazy, people hate it, it's a great way again to put me over as a heel. But you've guessed it, as a face, if I'm in the ring and the heel says, I want you to open the ropes to let me in, I think, he wants me by the ropes. Because I've seen heels cut faces off on the ropes a million times. It's simple, it's obvious, I'm going to take his lead, come on over. Yeah, sure, I'll help you in. Me as a heel, grab him by the back of the head, throttle him on the ropes. Brilliant, I've got it. The fans hate it, the face and the heel love it because they've kept it simple, they've kept it obvious, and it's been a real easy way to establish the cutoff. And of course, we all know what comes next. It's the workover. So the heel's just going to be laying in the shots. He's going to be choking the face. He's going to be cheating. He's going to get lots of boos. Easy stuff. We all know what happens here. It's very easy to lead. But you will find times where as the face you want to sell in slightly different ways. So you might do things like walking up to the ropes, so with your head by the ropes so they can throttle you, so you can take a little rest and also get a great facial as you're like, oh no, I'm choking. Fantastic, easy, nice photo, you're on the next poster and you had 3 minutes of rest. Good for you. So far we've kept it simple, we've always done the obvious, we've taken our opponent's lead, and off the back of that we found ourselves 5-6 minutes into the match, the workover is nearly done, there's been no risk of anything going wrong, and the crowd should be pretty darn hot by now. The other thing that I'm always bearing in mind when I'm working on the fly is to feel the crowd. By feel the crowd, what I mean is essentially allow the audience's temperament and their responses to help you and your partner work out how you're going to lead your match and how you're going to bring it to a conclusion. Essentially, where you keep it simple, the audience is able to follow it no matter what their age range is, no matter how advanced their knowledge is of professional wrestling itself. And you'll find this is the case amongst all wrestling audiences. Essentially, if you put them at ease and let them know that they understand the process and they go, oh, I can see where this is going, they tend to be a lot more thirstier for it because it's much easier for them to digest and they can relax and enjoy themselves instead of having to think their way through the whole time. So essentially, we allow the crowd's responses to lead where we go next. In the match, we've had the opening spots, we've had the work over, now we're getting towards the end. And by this point, we should be seeing the audience getting frustrated. If the heel keeps on cheating, they should be having a go at him. If he's doing big moves, they should be quite keen for the face to kick out. You should feel the tension in the air. And typically, when we've got a lot of tension, that's a great time to lock on a rest hold, bring your opponent down, bring the tempo right down. We do that because when the audience sees no action whatsoever, they realise that they have to fill the silence themselves. It's very uncomfortable being in a silent room. So when the audience is really responding to the heel's work over and you feel like it's time to reward them by letting the face have his big final comeback, you lock on a nice simple hold because everyone knows that now that means we're going to slow it down and it's time for the audience to start clapping, start making noise, because that will encourage the face to make some movement, work their way up and have their big comeback. And then, of course, as it comes to a conclusion, you start to fight your way up. You start to hit him more and more and more and more and more. You send him off. You give him a clothesline, a back elbow. You do a really obvious feed to give him a big body slam. Bam! You feel the audience. They're popping. Great. Big elbow drop. They see the big body slam. They go, oh, that was amazing. Let's see a big move. You're like, okay, you want to see a big move? Great. Let's go up top. Let's do a crossbody. I know it's really simple, but at the end of the day, if you let the audience and their excitement sort of lead the way that you finish your match, you should normally find that they really come up for it. Where we're working on the fly, we're still going to keep it simple. If our opponent knows our moves, that's great. That makes it much easier and you can still get some cool stuff in. But essentially, we're just allowing the audience and their frenzy to lead the comeback itself. And I've been in the ring with plenty of people who are really good at doing a few moves, a few simple spots, and then letting that audience response tell them as to who's going to win the match or how they're going to win the match, whether they're going to end the match with a submission or a knockout blow, or they're going to do a top rope move, or they're going to do some kind of roll up. Like, it doesn't really matter, but essentially if they've allowed the audience and their responses to shape the way they built the match, it should be quite obvious by that point what the audience wants to see as a finish, and it should therefore be quite easy to keep it simple, do the obvious, go for the thing which the audience has led you to, and then off the back of that you can either have the face win, get the big pop, or the heel can do whatever the most obvious, simple reversal or cheat way out of it is to end the match on a nice clean conclusion. Essentially, if you follow these rules, you're going to find that you have quite a good time when it comes to working on the fly. So as a quick summary, you're going to keep it simple, stupid. You're going to always do the obvious thing. You're going to let your opponent take the lead, and you're going to feel the crowd. And you should find as well, this ends up being quite a lot of fun, because the nice thing about this is it takes away the stress of having to have the complicated match, remembering spots. It takes away the stress of having to be like the standout or anything like that. You're essentially just playing with wrestling, you're doing the obvious stuff and just keeping it really easy for yourself, your opponent, and you should be able to just have a lot of fun with it and have a lot of fun with the audience. I will be clear, it's really hard to learn this skill without just going out there and doing it. You can certainly give it a go in training schools. Again, the safer and easier you keep it, the safer and easier it will be, and you'll find it's a lot of fun, but it does take a little bit of practice. This is not the kind of thing you can expect to do well the first time you do it. It's probably going to be quite difficult and stressful, but it's a really important skill to get down. You never know if someone's going to turn up at the very last minute, or you could be in the ring with someone who just literally does not want to plan a match with you. I guarantee it will happen, and if you have this skill down, then you'll be able to go out there confidently and have fun with this person and have a good, genuine wrestle. But if you don't have this skill, then it is horrific because you're essentially just hoping it's going to turn out well, and it's generally a very stressful experience for you and the person who wants to just work on the fly in the first place. So, congratulations. Now you know how to work on the fly, folks. So go off, have a bit of fun with it, and then drop some comments below, send us some messages, and let us know how you get on. Let's spread the knowledge, let's get a discussion going. The more opinions we get, the better. So let's have a little chat in the comments, and we'll drop some messages below and come back to you as well. If you've got any questions, let us know. Always happy to have a discussion. So yeah, let's get it going. And before you head off to practice all this stuff at the local gym, please give us a moment to give us a like. It's really appreciated. If you haven't already, please do subscribe down below. We really appreciate all the new subscriptions. It really helps us out, and it means that we can guarantee that all of these great videos that are coming out every week are going to land straight in your inbox. We've got wrestling instructors from all around the world, and they've got all sorts of experience, and they're going to be bringing you different videos on match planning, on etiquette, on how to get the best wrestling gear, make the most money off of merch, how to get the most bookings through social media. We're going to be covering loads of stuff every week, so make sure you keep following the page, make sure you get involved because we've got lots of great stuff coming to you. Thanks for joining me today. I am Ollie Burns. We've been studying how to work on the fly in wrestling. I want to thank you for watching The Theory of Wrestling, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.